What is up, guys? Speed here, and today I'm doing something that I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy, because recently I did the late game series where I talked about in every single role the powerful heroes of the late game, like what you should look out for if you're trying to scale, what heroes you should pick if you want to go to 40, 50 minutes. And on the contrast, I didn't mention too much about the early game, so what we're going to be doing here is talking specifically about the lane sustaining mid laners. And what I mean by that is heroes that you can pick for the laning stage, assuming you don't have last pick. Now, a lot of mid lane is a ton about counter picking, right? For instance, if you see a TA, you could opt for something like a Huskar if you feel like the matchup's favorable. If you see something like an OD, you can go for Sniper. And typically, mid lane is very much revolving around the counter pick, but I'm going to talk about how to avoid getting counter picked and some heroes that you should pick for the laning stage when you don't have last pick in mid. Tired of being held back by your team? At GameLeap.com, we have pro guides covering some of the best heroes in the game to solo carry your ranked games, as well as a course specifically covering the mid lane role. Hit the discount link in the description below to steal the secrets of pros and start your climb today. But for now, let's hop into the video. First off is Troll Warlord. Now, this is one I'm very fond of personally. I've run it a couple times, especially for all you carry players. Now, I know a lot of carry players, they often either want to transition to mid or they're forced to play mid some games. I know that might sound crazy, forced to play mid. It does happen occasionally, and I think Troll is one of the best ones because you can play him like a carry, but in the mid lane. It's very, very straightforward. Your hero has one of the best laning stages, not strictly, but primarily in my opinion, due to the fact that whirling, axis, ranged are very effective in the laning stage for multiple reasons, right? They slow the enemy, they do damage, but most importantly, they secure you last hits. For every range creep that's coming up, especially if the wave splits and each range creep is dying, you have whirling axis to easily secure range creeps and the early melee creeps if you auto attack and then throw the axis. It makes basically the majority of laning stages not that bad. I've laned against the Quap in the past as Troll and I did perfectly fine, specifically due to the fact that I could go range, and then if she ever wanted to man up, I could switch into the melee form, gain a ton of armor, throw out my axis, and she would have a mischance, and I felt really good. Not only that, you jungle extremely fast, right? So let's say the lane doesn't go too well. You still can split push and jungle at lightning speed, and I think that's a great way to look at a hero that is going to naturally do well in the laning stage and be a better non-last pick hero. Next up on the list is Razor. Now, Razor was very, very popular for a while. He started to fade off, which is interesting because I don't think Razor has received particularly huge nerfs, at least that I'm aware of. So I'm a bit shocked because I think Razor is still one of the better mid laners, especially for players who are just looking for a hero that can AFK farm and snowball the game. You can first pick Razor, and I don't think he has many bad matchups. There's really none that directly come to mind, at least like right away, and that's a great sign. Not only that, he has a ton of crushing matchups, right? He can dumpster a hero like Ember Spirit in the majority of matchups. He can do extremely well against the likes of a DK. He can even do pretty well against ranged heroes in the likes of Storm Spirit or maybe even an Arc Warden in some matchups. You can do quite well. And not only that, similar to Troll Warlord, and you notice this is a very common theme with a lot of these heroes, is that if your lane doesn't go well, you are easily one of the best junglers in the game. If you have your passive maxed out and you go for your Q, and this is the important thing to know, when you're playing Razor as this farming sort of style, you want to cast your ultimate off cooldown to farm the camps, basically use it whenever it's up. That's what I recommend. Easiest way to play it. Cast your Q for vision, connect the camps together, and use your passive to zap more than one camp at a time, and you're going to farm at lightning speed. Now, if you go the Rod of Atos build or the Drums build, whatever you go, you can snowball the early game, potentially crush the laning stage if they counterpick themselves, which is actually more common than you would think, and basically have a lot of early, mid-game, and even late-game impact. So coming in at number 3, we have Kunkka. Well, Kunkka has been a popular one for a while, and I even considered putting him sort of just like in the same line as DK. I didn't put DK anywhere in here, as I think people actually do kind of understand a lot of his counter matchups, or at least things that can do pretty well, such as the Ember, sometimes the Monkey Kings, the Timber Saws, Huskar, etc. So I wanted to leave DK out, and instead I put Kunkka. Kunkka has always been one of these heroes, more so when he had the capability of denying with Tidebringer. Now, that's not the case anymore. However, you are still one of the best heroes in terms of sustaining the lane due to the fact that you have very high strength, and similar to Troll Warlord, one of the best ways to secure range creeps. Right, naturally you have Torrent or Tidebringer, and a lot of heroes don't have that capability. It might seem even like ranged heroes have that, but some don't. Like a hero like OD in the early levels, it's very hard for him to actually astral the range creep. It's a very short range, so it can get him punished. A hero like TA, sure you can side blades, but I mean, if you're not comfortable at that, or it's at a weird angle, and you walk up, you're going to take potentially a lot of creeps and get punished as a result, while Kunkka typically does not have that problem unless you accidentally use Tidebringer and put the range creep in actual deny range. But back to the point, I think a lot of people see Kunkka as countered by heroes such as Timber and Monkey King, and while this is true to some extent, he can lose to these heroes pretty hard. At the same time, he can do fine. In fact, he can do well to some extent. Timber, for instance, what Timbersaw likes to do is hold on to the creep waves and pressure the tower. Kunkka has no problem with this. He easily can clear the creep wave. He can X himself in if needed. He can boat the wave, torrent the wave, and then or just Tidebringer the wave. That works just as well. And prevent Timber from actually doing anything. And not only that, this might not sound that logical, but you can farm jungle pretty fast on Kunkka if you really needed to. But the most important and key concept to understand on Kunkka is simply the idea that he is one of the best gankers in the game, right? Once you have Tidebringer maxed out, it feels very easy to gank. You hit them once with the Tidebringer, you set them up the X, especially, once you get more points than X, which you probably will have. Set them with the X, you throw in a boat, it's 400 damage at level 1, that kills the majority of supports and a lot of the edgy and even sometimes low HP strength heroes. So basically, you have a really good catch-up mechanic in boat, X plus boat. And lastly, you have also, once again, another great comeback mechanic in Tidebringer. Creep clear is the name of the game for heroes that want to catch up, right? If you're having a bad game and you have creep clear, similar to Ember Spirit, even if he has a bad lane, he's going to be able to cut your waves, he's going to be able to remnant out if you try to catch him, and flame guard every single creep wave. Next up on the list is one you guys might be a little bit shocked to hear, because he does have some notable counters, at least from what people think, and that's Timbersaw. Now, what I do want to say is that Timbersaw is a hero I've had personally a lot of success with, and it's only a hero I'd recommend if you do practice him, but the thing is, you can pick him very early. In fact, a lot of pro teams are moving towards this. There was a lot, and I mean a lot. If I'm not mistaken, Timbersaws picked in the first phase of the TI qualifiers recently, and I think that's for good reason. He has a lot of good matchups, and even if the matchup isn't great, right, he typically does okay due to the fact that he has very high regen, he has his Q, right, his Whirling Death, which once again allows him to secure range creeps, and this is important, guys. It allows him to secure creeps, range creeps. Basically, he has an innate ability to last hit and sustain the lane. Not only that, I think the most important part about this concept, if you pick him second, first, third in pubs, what do you think will happen? I guarantee the majority of players think that Timbersaw is an offlaner. I'm not kidding. I first pick him all the time, and the enemy mid laner has actually counterpicked themselves before. I've literally gotten one of the most favorable matchups when first picking Timber. Not only that, I've played against a bunch of Tinkers, because people are like, oh, Tinker counters Timber. But if you understand that matchup correctly, you can actually dumpster the Tinker. It's 100% possible, and that's really why I love Timber as one of this early pick heroes. Not only does it throw their safe laner off, because they're going to end up picking whatever they consider a counter, whether it's Razor or Ursa or Monkey King, whatever people consider, in their minds, maybe even Void, in their minds, the counter to Timber, and they think he's an offlaner, which often is what they will think. They're going to mess up their draft. They're going to pick their safe laner early, and then they're going to pick their mid laner late, trying to counter some offlane hero, or maybe they've realized at that point if they're lucky, and their whole draft gets thrown off. And I've had a lot of success with this. I don't think the other heroes necessarily fill that role. Troll can sort of work, but he doesn't necessarily dominate a lot of lanes unless you were very mechanically skilled at the hero. So I really like Timber. If you can practice this hero, he's one of the coolest solo queue heroes in that regard. And finally, number 1 on the list, and this is a hero that, I could say Ember Spirit. Frankly, I could just be like, Ember's really good. And frankly, you could argue a hero like Ember. He's one of the most popular heroes in Dota right now. No joke. I mean, 100%. Honorable mention. But the thing about Ember is he does have the matchups like Razor, and you can get quote-unquote Huskar. Now I've seen players do fine. I've even seen Ember speed Huskar. No joke. And the thing is, you actually can do fine in the majority of matchups, it seems. However, I feel like Death Prophet is one of the most stable mid laners in all of Dota. Once again, you have your Q to secure the creeps, right? You're going to get the majority of last hits with your Q. Its cast time has been improved greatly. I believe its mana cost has been improved. I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even the damage and cooldown as well, but I definitely know the mana, which is the most notable one. And basically, you have this long-range nuke that allows you to play the laning stage for creeps and get harass in, and then you have your Spirit Siphon. It's as simple as that. If anyone tries to man up on you, or you ever get a creep advantage, you simply nuke out the wave and then Spirit Siphon. You're going to drain a large majority of their HP, get a very favorable trade, and if they man up, I don't know what to say. Usually you just don't beat Death Prophet and man up the majority of times. And similar to Kunkka, what I will say is that you have very good gank potential. A lot of these heroes sort of do. Racer's pretty good, Troll's fairly good, Timber's, good. And Death Prophet is very good at it, and not only that, kind of different from all these heroes. And not to say that Timber, Troll, and Racer can't necessarily push towers. They sort of can if they're in the right position. Kunkka a little bit less so. But Death Prophet in particular, coming off an effective gank from the mid lane, even if you're behind the enemy mid laner, you're going to absolutely destroy a safe lane, basically instantly tank their tower, and really help your team's overall net worth come back into the game. And I think that's why Death Prophet can even be a first pick hero, because if you really understand it, it has very little losing matchups, right? I think, honestly, I would love to hear what you guys think are the Death Prophet matchups. None directly come to mind. I mean, maybe a hero like Quap can kind of buller out a bit, disengage from the Spirit, and that makes sense, right? That makes sense. But the majority of the time, you're going to do at least fine and have really, really effective ganks into the side lanes. It's very hard to deal with any sort of Death Prophet with levels. Once Death Prophet's level 8, 9, has her wand, phase boots, etc., dang, that hero's scary. Alright, but thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe to help our channel grow. Leave a comment down below and let me know what hero you think I missed that is a very good pick for the mid lane when you know you don't have last pick and you're afraid you might get counterpicked. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The mid lane role is for star players, which is why at GameLeap.com we designed an in-depth course teaching you every trick and concepts pro players abuse to crush the middle lane. There's no better role than mid to solo carry your ranked games, so click on this link right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.